social stories, security, sanitation, we stand at the front lines of all these happenings, toe to toe with men fighting for our place, fighting for equal pay, for equity, for recognition, the battleground that is the media industry. And so tonight on Strong and Sassy, we want to tell our own stories, the stories of what it takes to make it to the top in this industry, the things that we fight for, the sacrifices we make. And we do this so that we can make a way, maybe create a path for every young girl or aspiring woman who wants to thrive in this industry, and perhaps to begin to change how things are done, how women are viewed, both by the public and most importantly, how we see ourselves in this industry. Good evening and welcome to Strong and Sassy. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo and it's absolutely great to be here with you. Thank you so much. You could be anywhere, but you choose us every Wednesday at 7 o'clock and we're so grateful. And perhaps you will be as excited as I am when you hear the beautiful women that are joining me tonight. I can't keep still. It's absolutely amazing. We have you'll be hearing about 7 voices tonight. So there's 3 of them in the studio here with me, and then there's 4 that you're also going to hear. And you're going to hear from Jifa Bampo, you're going to hear from Gifty Auntie, you're going to hear from Nuong Falong, you're going to hear from Akosia Hansen. And then in the studio with me, I have the beautiful, ravishing Selikem Akolache, who I used to watch growing up. On GTV. She's squeezing her face. And I always used to look at her and think she was so beautiful. And there was a part of me that wanted to grow up and be like her. And here we are. And also, the astonishingly beautiful Sewa is here with us as well. And of course, our very own head of joy business, Odelia, is also here as well. So like I said, absolutely amazing panel tonight. So Selikem, why are you eyeing me? I don't understand.
Why would you say you were listening to me or watching me growing up?
But I was.
We all. Okay.
Are you trying to make...
13 years. I started in 2009. Okay. How young were you?
We were young. We were young. We were watching you.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, I think so. So tonight we're talking about women in media. And a few weeks ago there was the Alma report that was released. And there were a lot of aspects of that report that were quite disconcerting. I mean, for example, the thing that really jumped out at me was the fact that a lot of women in the media are under the age of 39. So by the time women are turning 40, they're kind of coming out of it. Another thing was the fact that only about 6% of women in the media have a master's degree. And so it looks as if we're not like really striving to excel, or the room is not being created for us to really master our art. And so we got in touch with you guys, but we also got in touch with women who have paved the way, like Gifty Auntie and Jifa Bampo, so that we can really get their view. So I want to start with Jifa's voice, and she talks about opportunities. So I want us to start this conversation with the kinds of opportunities that we have as women in the media.
I left my media job when I turned 40, and I left partly because I was worn out physically, psychologically, mentally. I mean, I think I had worked so hard over the period, and really I had reached a point where I didn't think I would really be able to continue, or didn't even have the motivation to really continue, even though I would say I left at the top of my game. The reality is that you don't send your top striker to do, minimal work. And at the time, I felt I was a top striker, yet I was working hard. I had to work weekends, I was working public holidays, and these things began to affect me as a person, because I was tired, and sometimes on a weekend you want to rest, you have a family, you want to give attention to them, and you cannot. So it was one of the reasons where I felt that, look, nobody is paying me well enough to work on a weekend and a public holiday. And I had actually even reached a stage where no amount of money is enough for my free time. And so I began the process of exiting at the young age of 40. I mean, I had already worked 20 years in media. I probably could have worked another 20 more, but I was at a stage in my life where I wanted time for me, and I wanted to be able to rest, and I also wanted to get a job where I felt I would be paid a little better than what I was earning. I wanted more things, and in the media sometimes as a woman you don't even get to get those more things. You may not earn enough. You can't. I mean, we're all ambitious. We all want to own a home. We all want to drive a good car, a new one if it's possible. And you can't typically do that on your salary. And even if you are having opportunities to do extra work, it's sometimes few and far between. A lot of that extra work goes to the guys, since a lot of them are the ones hosting morning shows. They are the first choice when it comes to a panel, moderation, or emceeing a program and the like.
So I see all of you kind of shaking your heads in agreement. Salikem, you said you did this for 13 years and then you basically quit.
Yeah, I quit.
Okay, so you can relate to what Jifa
so
saying.
much, so much to what she said. You know, she talked about the fact that it gets to a point where you get tired of working so much and not being paid enough. One of the reasons I left. Also, you get to a point where really you don't want to be fighting through every task that you have to undertake. I don't want to fight to have to be recognized for working hard. I don't want to fight to get things done right. I want things to be in place for me to work just as they are in place for any other person, any other worker, be they male or female. And I want to feel that the effort I'm putting into my work is actually being recognized. And this recognition also has to reflect in the amount of money that goes into my pocket. As a woman grows and she develops, her taste changes. She wants more things, just like Jifa says. She wants to be able to make choices, and those choices come from having economic power. If you don't have the kind of economic power that you have, how do you turn down all these 1,100 proposals, temptations that are coming at you? What gives you the temerity to be able to stand through your integrity? How do you? Because you don't have enough money to run you around. Also, she made a critical point. How many women are being given the first place in any media organization? You can count them. It's always the male choice first. Why? I don't know. Because I've seen brilliant women in the media. I've seen women who have done just as good. Why should the woman be the co-host? Why can't she be the main anchor? Is the question. So you get to a point in your career where you're looking at all these things and you're asking, what is the career progression for me? As a person, not as a woman. As a person, what does the way forward look like? And are the people that I work with ready to part with so much for my value? If that is not happening, you sit back and you take a decision like I did, to quit to find my own, to quit to be able to operate within the media, within my own space. I've come up with an online channel, Sally TV, which I'm hoping to push. My own form of content, discussion programs, my news. I'm hoping that I can do that, and I'm hoping that it can be another example, just like the Gipsiantis who've built their own studios and are working and doing their own thing. You also have control over your time. I'm a family woman. I got married a year after I entered the media. But ask me, how have I straddled it along? Has my family had enough of me? In pursuing my work in the media, am I losing my family? Am I losing my relationship with my spouse? If I am, if those things are in danger, I will have to take another look at this job that takes so much of my time but gives me very little money.
Right.
Also, you're looking at promotion. In 11 years of working, if you've received promotion only once, you sit back and you ask yourself, is that what I'm worth? Is it that my effort is not enough? And yet, when it comes to opportunities where you're called to the table, you have equal opportunities just like your male colleagues. So what is the problem with you? as a female.
Right.
So it's not just because it's a female issue. It's also because these are gaps within the media industry that need to be fixed. Persons who work in the media are underpaid, and it's true. We are so underpaid. What do you expect a person who is paid 150 cedis? This is coming from the survey. Women are paid as low as 150 cedis. What do you expect her to do for a month if she's
with
paid
150 cedis? Yeah.
So you see, so the issues are many. Look, if you give me this mic, they won't have their say.
Yeah. Okay, so let me come to Sewa. In terms of opportunity, I mean, can you relate to what Salikem and Jifa are saying? Because we see you're successful. You're doing well. Are you having to fight your way through it as well?
Well, obviously, I started not too long ago. They are my seniors, and a lot of respect for them. But in a way, I can relate. I mean, I decided to go back to school because even in the almost 4 years that I've been in this job, I still ask myself, what's the future looking like? Because you see people who have been doing this for 20 years, 15 years, 18 years, and they really do not have much to show for it, And so I have days where, a lot of moments where I sit back and ask, is this really what I want to do for the long term? And I'm thinking, and like Salikem said, it takes all of my time, because as women, we have to do thrice as much as our male counterparts are doing to prove our worth, unfortunately, in this business. So even when you can go home or you've closed and you want to go home and sleep, at this age when I'm just starting, I want to do so much more, because I want to show people out there that, look, I am actually very intelligent, and at the end of the day, really, I don't get as much as the work that I put into it, even at this stage. So I can imagine what Salikem, who has been doing it for 13 years, has gone through. I feel after 3 years that I am not getting enough. I feel like I should be getting way more than what you're getting, than what I'm getting, but I'm not getting it, and I really can relate, and I don't know if I'll be able to do 13 years of
plodding along and hoping you will get.
I don't know. Well done. You
right,
and Jifa, but I don't know if I can. But let's see what
we'll
the future holds.
Yeah. Odilia, you are the head of Joy Business, so maybe you are perhaps in the minority of women who are actually at that level.
That's right.
Was it a fight? And I know that it might be, this is Joy FM talking about Joy, so I don't know how freely, you'll be able to, exactly, considering that GM is loitering around here somewhere. But was it a struggle for you as well?
Okay, so I am an implant, so I've come from another media house to this place.
Okay.
I actually came from TV3. I've been in the media for 18 years. This is my 18th year, yes. I started as a student journalist and went to TV3. I would say that, yes, it's been a fight. A fight not at multimedia, a fight at where I came from. Having worked there for 7 years, I think that it's a general media problem of progression. So you've been a reporter for 7 years, no promotion, so what happens next? So I decided that, well, maybe it's time to just move on, because then I felt that my competition was limited. I didn't really feel huge competition when I go to work. Apart from that, also, I didn't see my way clearly, because it has to be clear in every media house that from this stage, if you work it out, you're going to the next stage.
Okay.
And that is not...
So structure and policy is missing generally.
Not really there. And I felt that, hey, why continue to push it? And then just like others have said, family sets in, and that is also becomes like another thing that you have to pull along with whatever you're doing. So had my first child, asked for extra months to sort of like really put my head together and see whether I was mentally ready for the work. That was 3 months, asking for another extra month without pay, and getting told by HR that well, you'll be taking that extra month at your own peril. And I said, then I
What
quit.
does that mean? Taking a month off means which means that your job it's not guaranteed that you'll come back to a job.
So I mean, that's exactly what was told me, and so I just told myself that, well, having done different stories, on the channel at the time, one that I almost lost my life, and my father called me up and said, I'm coming to your company to tell them that you're not working there anymore. I almost drowned.
Wow.
And my cameraman was filming that live, when I was being rescued by people in the river. And so, I mean, you do all of that, and all you're asking for is an extra month after 3 months of having your child. You don't have any sort of like support system.
Yeah.
You're looking at, that's your first child. You want to wrap your mind around
of course,
how
yeah.
you want to, pull out of all of this and come back to work, and you're told that, well, you'll be taking the extra month at your own peril. And so you just
That's
tell
tough to
yourself
hear.
that.
That's really tough to hear. And I guess that also speaks to the unfairness, because I say this all the time. Women, we can't apologize for being the ones who have to have kids. I'm sure if we could hand it over to the men, we would.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it seems like we're penalized actually for being the ones who biologically are supposed to do that.
And I'll quickly want to add that I think that women are penalized almost at every level. So just do a survey, write in your own mind. Politicians who've been criticized the most have been women politicians. And so I ask myself that if a man took a gun and fired a warning shot in the air, will the man get the same sort of criticism and call for the person to resign as much as if a man had done it?
Right.
There are so many women in this country who made a few mistakes in
their lives, even as is normal,
and they've never been forgiven because they were women, and people thought that they all of a sudden became airheads because they
made those mistakes. I could stay here, but I want us to move to another thing that is also really important, and that's age. The age at which women are leaving the media, and the age at which women are blossoming in the media. So we spoke to Nuong, and this is what she had to say on that.
I am Nuong Falong. I'm a journalist. I have been in the media industry in different capacities since 2012. The very presence of women, even if they're not very vocal, is a form of silent advocacy that tells the next generation that women can hold whatever positions in media that they want, that women can get to whatever level in media that they want, that no matter how hard it is. And the data shows us that the women in power positions in media are few, but there are still, no matter how few, there are women present at every level. So this is what I mean by silent advocacy. It shows the next generation that they too can. When we talk of success stories, I would say from my perspective, they include Gifty Afenyidazi, Gifty Auntie, Emma Morrison, Elizabeth Ohene, Audrey Gajepo, Edith Dankwa of the BNFT, and even my former CEO, Beatrice Ajiman of Media General. So how challenging is the industry? The industry is heavily challenging. Even, on a general level for both men and women, journalism is very challenging. So when it comes to women, it's even more skewed. There's an imbalance. And this is evident in the recent report that was released by the Alliance for Women in Media. Clearly shows you that there's a disparity in different aspects.
So that was Nuong talking about age. But Gifty, Auntie also talked about the perception of age and how long women should stay or are staying in the media.
I remember when I was at JBC, one woman that I looked up to said to me when she was retiring, that Gifty, make sure you don't stay here till you're 40 years. Of course, I left when I was 42 years. But she told me that I shouldn't stay till I was 40 years. I didn't understand. But then later on got to understand that, one, there are lots of people who are having challenges with relationships, women, because, and I had my fair share of it, because of the space we found ourselves in as journalists. The perception people have about us. Now I believe it's better because some people have gotten to understand, but then those in front of the cameras also go through, and then behind the microphones also go through the same thing that some of us are going through. People have all these sort of perceptions about you and the rumors, the things that they will talk about as if they were there.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Okay, so now we're talking about age. And I keep on hearing, this almost 40, and I'm calculating in my head how many more years I have. But why? Why does it seem like there's that cap for women? Is it? Let me not even try and answer. Why, Sarah? Why do you think? Why do you think there seems to be that cap?
I think I'm going to let. I think Odelia should answer. She has been doing this for so long.
I think that once somebody doesn't enter the managerial stage
at a certain
point, at 40, you have reached the age where there are younger people coming into the space, and if you're an on-air person, people are naturally beginning to say, oh, but this person is looking old, and this person is not looking too good on TV, and they're comparing you to younger people who have come into the space probably with more energy and all that kind of thing. And so yourself sitting back and looking at where you currently are, you're asking yourself, for how long will I be here for this X amount of pay and this Y amount of treatment, and working in the same space with this young people,
right,
and doing virtually the same thing as they do. So if you're not in managerial position, it really gets complicated, and you quickly want to ask yourself that, what's in it for me?
For me, yeah. Salikem, so is wisdom and maturity more appreciated in men in the media than it is in women? Because I see I remember, was it time with David Ampoff, growing, he was such a distinguished, and we respected him. I see, very handsome men who perhaps are in their 40s. There's Israel Lai, there's Roland, there's all these, men who have been in the media for a long, and you see them on TV and they command respect by virtue of the fact that they've been doing this for a long time. Are we implying that as women we don't command that? Is it really just because maybe you don't look as good, you have a few wrinkles, you're not as perky, and everything is not, gravity, so suddenly, you've lost your place?
For a society, let me not just start from the media. For a society, many people would look at anyone who is sitting behind the microphone or behind the camera, would view them as a male figure, would prefer to view that person as a male figure. That male figure is what is perceived to be an intellectual, intelligent, assertive, has command over the issues, especially when it comes to issues of politics, governance. Because for a long time we've seen men play that role for so long that we expect to see men in that role consistently. So it's no surprise if a man is inching 50 and he's still doing his interviews or running his shows, it's fine. But because we ourselves have not been conscientized as a society to see women, older women, in that role, and indeed we don't see them because not enough of them are able to stay till that long, and they fade off.
Why are you smiling? Why are you smiling?
And they fade off. It's easier to look at a woman in the media as the lifestyle show host, the entertainment host. This lifestyle show host and entertainment host is supposed to be relaxed, always smiling, not looking very serious, sexy, attractive, beautiful, nice legs, everything, flat tummy. So you go and deliver and come back. And then you have these folds. And they are popping out of your clothes, and people are sending you DMs. You've put on weight. Your arms are beginning to get flabby because of the natural progression of a woman's biological makeup. When you reproduce, your body expands and then retracts. There's no way it's going to be the same as it was before. The love handles will develop. How to hide those love handles within your silicone dresses becomes very difficult. So you start wearing your flare and your cover, and then you start looking too old for the screens. Then media owners will begin to look out for other faces that can give them more ratings, because it's all about the figures. We should accept that. It's about the figures and the numbers. Are your numbers good? Who is pulling the numbers? Is it Sewa Ami here? Or is Selikem with the flabby arms? If Sewa is pulling the numbers, fine, it's okay. Now, as Sewa ages also, and she goes to have a child or two, then her arms also get flabby. Charlie, these days, Sewa is looking fat in the face. Sewa, why?
Scary.
And then you yourself, you look at yourself as an uncle, and you don't feel as assertive and powerful because of what you're seeing in the mirror. So you take a backstage and you say, okay, let me go into the managerial position. But you spend so much time on the job that you haven't had time to pay attention to the level of education that you came in with. So you haven't furthered your education. They need somebody with an MPhil or a PhD or a master's or more than just one to fill in this position, and you don't have it. So you quit. Find something else. Do PR. Go into communicate. Do any other thing. And that is what progressively over the years we've seen. So if that's what we've seen and that's what society has been imbibed to accept, it becomes the norm. Unless we are willing to challenge it, and unless media owners are also willing to go beyond that, to look beyond Sewa and take Silicon with the flabby arms.
Well, Odelia
or
wanted
try
to.
the two of them.
Yeah. I think one of the strategies I used when I was at semi-entry level at TV3, I went through City FM, came to TV3, and now here. What I decided to do was to enter what is typically known as male space, and that is how come today I sit as head of business programming for the group. And so what is typically known as male space, if we decide to leave those ones also for the males, unfortunately we will continuously be seen as lifestyle people. So for me, I think that sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be doing business and business programming. It is not easy. There were times I did stories that I met men who said, well, we can't do what you did, even as men. Maybe my orientation is different because I grew up with my father. My father was a single father, and that's where I grew up from. And so he gave me this orientation that whatever my brothers could do, I could even do and do better. He gave me opportunities, and so maybe that's why. But for me, I think that one of the things I offer as solution is that we just don't leave some of the spaces for
men.
the men to totally occupy. And one of the big spaces I'll say is the business.
It's the big, you know,
when you go out and you meet 10 business journalists, you will hardly find 4 of them being women. And that's disturbing.
It's very disturbing, but that also brings me to this point that Jifa made, and she was talking about the fact that as a woman, how do you get the kind of money that you want, because a lot of the money areas in media are dominated by men. So then it brings me to the fact that, for example, I am on the morning show team, and naturally, even though I'm strong and confident and all of that, I naturally gravitate towards, you know, the softer stories. I would shy away from the politics, you know, and you're calling people, you're calling women, you want them to come and talk about politics, and they don't want to, you know, you're calling them to talk about security or something, you know, and they don't want to, and I'm wondering what it will take, because we sit down and we talk about it, and the opportunities sometimes are there for us, but it's what will it take? And I'm asking myself, what will it take for me to say, you know, that actually I'm a woman on the morning show, and I'm actually going to be a strong voice when it comes to politics, and not leave the studio for Kojiangson and Winston, because that's what I do, you know. Like, as soon as they start, I'm like, all right, guys, I'm out, you know, because it's not a. So what will it take? You know, is it about educating ourselves? Is it about closing your ears to the criticism that comes from people when you try to talk about politics? Because, you know, as a woman, when you're even talking to the politicians, it's a very different way that you're treated from when, you know, they're talking to men. Very, very, very different. I'm sure it's not intentional, so we're not having a go at them. But the point is, so what do we do? Like, okay, so Sewa, I mean, I've seen you interview, you know, some politicians and stuff, and you seem to be able to do that. So what do you do? How do you find that courage to?
Well, I listen to and watch people a lot. Unfortunately, I have suffered, a lot of stereotyping. Every morning when I wake up in the last, few months, I need to continuously say to myself that, look, you can do it, because there been a few times where something might have gone wrong in an interview that I have done, and I monitor a lot of political hosts. I see that the mistakes that I sometimes make is not so different from the ones that they make, but I am treated differently, and I am trolled on social media for being an airhead, for not being the smartest person,
like the recent Kojo Oppong interview. And so, I would say that it takes a lot. It takes a lot, because you are going into an interview and you're already thinking about the number of the army that is waiting for you to make a mistake for them to come at you. I said with my co-host every time, he makes a lot of mistakes and nobody talks about it. And when it's me, it's such a big deal, and I'm wondering, like, what did I do wrong? Yeah.
Are we not the same people? Are we not doing the same things? So sometimes there are certain interviews I would say that
he should do it.
He should do it.
Wow.
Yes, there are certain things that I say, look, do it. I would say that at GH1 TV, I would say I'm fortunate to have a general manager who is a woman, and so she likes to push the women up. She knows how difficult it is. So when you come up with the excuse, for instance, when there's a business after the budget, I say that, no, you know what, Lantam, go and do this one. I will stay back and watch. There have been times where I'd have to call George works here, and say, George, we are here, and say, George, you need to take me through this, and you take me through it. And in the morning when I get to work and I want to even do the interview, there's something telling me, look, when you make the slightest mistake, people will come for you. So let the man do it. When the man does it and he makes mistake, nobody will come for him. Nobody will attract him. So it's not easy. And I know several other women who, at my age, as in just gotten into the media, they are now thriving, who face the same thing. And so I really
I want to have a bite on this one. Go ahead. And I can understand her, because it takes a lot more effort for you to prove yourself in the media as a woman. If it's going to be anything relating to politics or governance, you would have to read a lot more. You'd have to make sure that you're oriented to handle those issues a lot more, and you'd have to push yourself regardless of the comments that are coming through. I remember the 2016 elections when I was called, I just had a baby, 2 months, and then I was called by my boss to come and be one of the main anchors for the election encounters and presidential debate. Okay. First thing I said was, I just had a baby. But the second thought was, this is an opportunity for you to prove yourself. Had a conversation with my spouse. We decided to come up with a schedule that will help it work. And then I got in there. But when I heard that the sitting president was going to be in the chair on one of the days of the encounters, and so we were rotating, myself and my male colleague were rotating. When I heard that he was going to be in the chair and I was going to be sitting with him, because one person had to do the questioning and the other person had to do the coordinating, I was hesitant. And I called and said, could you just let him do this one so that why? It's not because I wasn't prepared, because I'll be breastfeeding and I'll still be reading up on what's happening in Ghana and doing all my research and stuff. But it just was because I was too afraid of what people were going to say about what was coming out of my mouth, whether it made sense or not. Yeah. Luckily for me, I went through it unscathed. Okay, but it has to take a lot more time, consciously trying to tune your mind to things that are, tilted towards politics and governance, and working yourself hard beyond the lifestyle stuff that you are giving, because sometimes you are giving a seat more opportunities where there's lifestyle, there's gender issues. That's where but you would have to
and
push
those are important.
Yes,
they are.
But Selikem, you know that, Animwaa, quickly, we are in times when, as a woman, you have to do, like I was saying earlier, 10 times what your male counterparts are doing.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That is what it will take.
I mean, but why? Why must you go the extra mile to prove yourself when really you are as intelligent as your co-host, who is a male, is?
Okay, so if I look at what's happening in so many industries, not just media, and sitting from the point of view of somebody who's hosted several women on this gender program for 7 years, you would find similar issues cutting across. That the chief executive CEO woman is paid less than the male chief executive.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not just in our part of the world. It's
all over.
It's all over the world.
Yeah. All over.
This is.
I remember BBC people, the women
exactly.
went on the riots.
This is a bigger conversation that affects us, but we have to fight through. So it is with women in politics or any other sphere. Why were many of these women turning down my proposals to come on the show and talk about themselves and their lives so that they could be good example for other girls coming up? They'll tell you that, Selikem, I'm in this position, but there's so much at stake. I can't come and sit on air and start talking about my achievements. As soon as I do that, I'm going to be judged. My position might be compromised just because I appeared on your show, because it will look like, oh, she's made it, she's achieved it, and so now she's sitting there talking about herself. And so many of them told me in confidence they won't come on the show.
But Selikem, do you feel like it's sometimes it's us who are hardest on us? So the judging,
good,
and all of that, is it the women who are judging, or is it because I feel like most of the time the men?
That as a society and a people, what are we used to seeing in authority? All of us, women and men, we're used to seeing the men as the authority, the figurehead. The doctor should be a man. The surgeon should be a man. You wouldn't think about the female surgeon. That is a cultural stereotype that lives within all of us.
Including women.
Including women.
Yeah.
And so because of that, when I see Sewa running for presidency, I'm thinking, can she do it?
Or why is she even?
Because
who does she think she
life,
is? Yeah.
All my life, I have seen men do it. And that's what I've been conscientized to accept. So I am fighting her, not because she's a woman. I'm fighting her because I am not used to seeing or accepting her as an authority.
Even as a woman.
Even as a woman.
Okay, let me open the text lines. The text lines, send us your messages. 0244-340-437. I'm not too sure if we're going to open the phone lines tonight. Maybe, if we have time. But I also wanted to open the text line so that I could also change the subject. Okay. Because I could feel like you guys wouldn't let me move on. But let's talk about sexual harassment as well. That aspect of working in the media. But this is Gifty Auntie and what she thinks of that, and then we'll come back into the studio.
The sexual harassment, sometimes editors can send you out to chase a specific story, knowing that because you're a woman, you'll be able to find your way out, to get that story or to get that person to come on the show. And then you go, and some of these men, will do all sorts of things and try to entice you. Actually, in my latest book, 15 I guess at 50, I wrote about an experience I had. But luckily, I had a senior reporter, Kweku Bakun, warning me that, listen, when you go, this is what is going to happen. Don't take the envelope when they give it to you. And exactly that's what happened. And I didn't take it. And trust me, if I'd taken that, I'm sure my professional life would have ended then.
There are definitely a lot of challenges, but just skimming off the top, for me, what I'll say our biggest challenges are, one, representation, where, there are so many men presenters that are definitely always picked. For every even woman presenter that has a space you trust, there's going to be 3-4 men presenters behind it ready to replace her if she steps down, because the pool of presenters that are made available, or the pool of presenters that we choose to hire, are usually very male dominated, and we don't take the extra deliberacy to seek out women presenters or do the training that requires for that, so that's a huge problem. Also, another major challenge is treatment, equal treatment in the industry. I mean, sexual harassment, sexual abuse, is something that definitely comes with the territory. There are so many stories of I mean, a woman presenter who has to deal with people who want to sleep with her or people who want to harass her, and especially in spaces where advancing your career is hinged on that, because of the predator you're dealing with, who is at the top. And obviously, if even people at the top are populated by men, this is going to be the issue you're going to be having with women seeking that advancement in career.
Joy,
And
99.7 FM.
thank you, Victor. And that was the voice of Akosia Hansen. She spoke after Gifty Auntie, also on sexual harassment. So let me come to you. Do you deal with sexual harassment a lot?
Well, it's not something I have experienced, but Gifty Auntie was sharing her own experience where you be sent out and the men will try to come at you with all sorts of things. Those ones I've experienced it, but not the very you need to sleep with me else that. No, I haven't, and I feel sorry.
Is that
for
perhaps
anyone.
because your GM is a woman?
Maybe. Sometimes I think so. There are times when I've said that of all the things I'm accused of in this country, if my GM was a man, I'm sure that that would have been the main topic, that you got to where you are because you are probably having something to do with your boss. That is something I always say. So maybe because my GM is a woman, it's that conversation or that
is dead.
It's dead on arrival.
Yeah.
But I have come into contact with male guests who, there was a particular instance where one person, because he liked me so much and I wasn't interested in having even a relationship, with him, declined to come on my show for me to interview him. And I took it in my stride. I said, no problem. It's not a big deal at all. But I know, yes. So I just let it go. But as to physical, sexual harassment, it's not something that I have experienced.
But then I think you're lucky or you're blessed, because
Both.
there's always a latent.
I think yes.
There's
Both.
always a latent sexual something going on somewhere when it comes to something.
I agree.
I remember I went to do a story in a region. Was invited by a politician. Okay, at that time I was not married, and we get onto the location, and what he says is that, well, I basically brought you here because I want to date you. I want us to do something, and my cameraman abandoned camp and ship. I'm sure the man had a conversation. And I was like, no way, that's not why I came here. Guess what? I quickly called my pastor and said, what should I do?
What did your pastor say?
And he said, take the message of Jesus to him.
That's a good one.
I escaped. For 3 days. And then when we were leaving, as usual, they're supposed to give you some sort of remuneration for coming for the assignment. Well, he didn't give us anything.
Yeah, because basically...
I didn't deliver.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like you have... Okay.
Sexual harassment is not just touch, physical touch. It's also implied. Once a person begins to look at your body in a way that they're not supposed to, they're harassing you. That's also there. Now, I've encountered several, and there have been so many instances I don't know which to pick.
Wow.
But I can say that one of the things that has kept me, and you won't hear the controversies or any other thing, is I have maintained my integrity no matter what. Let's go for lunch over news item, over an interview? No. We are not going for lunch. We are meeting in your office. Why should we do lunch over news? Why should we do lunch over an interview? No. Then there have been instances where you've had men within the media space actually try to say, okay, cozy up to you and say, okay, come to my office around this time and come. I'm like, no, I won't do that. And then, Odelia, thank you for Jesus. I will bring in God right now. At once. You know, about this particular instance, I think that let's pray a lot more. I think you need to pray a lot more. Oh yes, we thank God. Oh, I'm beautiful. We thank God who gives beauty. So then after that, give me your next line. Okay, I've had to come up with all sorts of strategies to just remain safe
and keep. But is it difficult? Do you think that, or have you found that on the journey it's been difficult? Because, and I'm asking you this because there are some women who have given in, and there are some women who have risen because they have given in. And you see them and you think, is this the easiest or the fastest way, to get here? Or do I just stay on this long path?
Remember that
it's not difficult.
Remember that the media you won't sustain and maintain with sex. You will maintain and sustain with some level of intelligence. And so if you rose and didn't back it with reading and some level of intelligence, then you come crumbling. And so for me, it's not really a long-lasting route to take.
Okay.
You won't arrive safely.
Yeah.
You won't arrive alive. Don't pick that path, because why we're saying that the men are taking the shine is because several of them who have had the space have also proven themselves. The Evans Mensahs have proven themselves they read, that they are going the extra mile. And so if we want to come up there, sex won't take us up there. It's not an option. It's not even up for discussion.
And I discovered that, and sorry to coming, I discovered that one of the things that could help me find my way around this whole sexual harassment thing was to have something else to offer that was intellect.
Okay.
If you wanted a date, can I get a profile of your company, and do you have a documentary? Will you need a documentary? What would you need to brand your company in a way that will be appealing? Could we arrange some interviews for you to speak so you project your... So I changed the conversation by giving you intellect, so that if it's about money you want to give me, let me provide that service and pay for it.
Okay, but you see, Animwaa, you have both raised very important points. Now, it's, of course, if you have principles in life you want to go by, it's easy. But for some people, and it raises the issue about pay in the media, because there are some people who really have principles and they say, look, I don't want to have anything to do with you for money. But this is a case where, for instance, someone is getting paid as low as 200 cedis or 300 cedis. 150. And yes, 150. And she sees someone or meets someone who says that, look, I have, for some people, for someone who is earning 150 cedis a month, if you decide to give them 1,000 cedis for seeing them, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So what can we also do in the media to ensure that especially young women are just as comfortable as the men are? Because, I don't think that you can tell me, I've realized that the male... So,
Gifty, come and join the conversation. Microphone here, come and sit down.
The male show hosts seem to get a lot more money even than, especially the morning show hosts. I see your morning show, for instance. I see Kojoya Hanksin, I see the rest. You see how they seem to be enjoying life and they live very comfortably. And I'm wondering, if really your job was giving you as much as these men were getting, a lot of people will have absolutely no business taking anything from any man at all. So in as much as we sit here and say, look, it is of course not the right path to take, but we can also ignore
that sometimes it's out of pure need.
So we need to fix that problem so that at least if you are getting the right money, enough money,
the temptation is taken.
Yes, and that's between you and your God. And if you still decide to go ahead and misbehave.
So Gifty Ando-Apia joins us. She's the host of Paul.
Animwaa, where have you been?
She's the host of Paul. She's the head of the security. She's a woman who is doing amazing things here. So Gifty, we're talking about women in the media. Okay. So it's 57. So I'm going to give you a minute because before you come and kick me out of the chair. But when people look at you and admire your strength, because that's the thing about you that jumps out, your strength and your tenacity. Yes. What has it taken for you to become that person?
Oh, that's a thesis. I've not really followed the conversation because I'm still on air, actually. What has it taken? I think it's just me. But I think the perspective I want to bring to this discussion is that I think I heard Sewa making a point about how much people make, in this industry, male and female, the disparity. I think what I can add to it is that, so there are gigs that we do on the side sometimes. So someone will give you a gig to, say, produce a documentary or do a voiceover or something. Even then, you find that discrepancy.
Yeah.
Wow. The time that you get to do, like when you are roped in, sometimes it's when an organization is saying, we want a female voice. Then you have the men looking for you. But one thing I realized, and I was talking to someone about this, is that I meet a lot of men who own organizations, who are in influential positions, who can give you, say, the gig or the job. But the conversation they'll have with you at the beginning, when they meet with you, I think there's more of a physical attraction kind of conversation rather than and for me, I'll start to cut you off very early. So it becomes very difficult to then engage somebody like that and say, oh, I can do documentaries. Can I do the documentary for you? Or can I bring this idea for us to, work on this project? Because the first conversation he's having with you is saying, hey, you're looking beautiful, hello. So then if I am cutting you off because I'm not interested in engaging in that kind of thing,
then it doesn't even, that opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. But the same person or the same people are giving the jobs to my male counterparts that I know. And then my male counterparts will now come and ask me to do a voiceover because they think the organization wants a female voice. A female voice. So that's the perspective I want to bring. The other one, I'll write a thesis and present.
Thank you very much for that, Gifty. Thank you so much, Odelia. Thank you, Selikem. Thank you, Sewa. A very big thank you to Jifa Bampo, to Gifty Auntie, to Nuang Falong, and to Akosia Hansen also for joining this conversation. We'll continue to talk about this until somehow there is some change. But thank you so much for choosing Strong and Sassy. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo, and a very big thank you to Dr. Na Ashele Dordo of Nova Wellness, who's been taking care of me for the past few weeks and getting me back on my feet. I appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you to Victor Brachi for excellence production, and Abeku and Abu and the whole team. Thank you guys so much. This is Strong and Sassy. We'll be back next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Good night.